SNL with Landry Locker and Cody Stoots. Get you started here. Landry Locker will be along in a moment. We're going to go through the candidates that the Texans have to be their next offensive coordinator, go through some of the names that have already been rumored, some of the different backgrounds that those guys have. Do you have to have this? Do you have to have that when it comes to the offensive coordinator for the Houston Texans? Of course, the Texans looking for a new offensive coordinator after they fired Bobby Slowick on Friday. Texans disappointing on offense this year, disappointing to the point where you could argue the offense held them back from playing today, this very game in Buffalo. Instead, it's in Kansas City because they're unable to get past the Kansas City Chiefs. But most of us can agree that if the Texans offense was better than it was in 2024, they'd still be playing football, right? Like they had a Super Bowl caliber defense, a defense that was playing at an elite level here at the end of the season, and the offense held them back. It was cobbled together for most of the season, and sure, certainly there were injuries. The offensive line wasn't very good. But the stuff that the offensive coordinator and the coaching staff on offense were in charge of wasn't very good. They were a predictable offense. They were unimaginative. It was rudimentary and basic at times. And even then, it looked like it wasn't well built or well foundationed, if I could use a cobbled together Cody Stoots term, when it came to this offense. And ultimately, it held them back in 2024. That's what DeMeco Ryans the conclusion he came to is that the offense held them back from going to where they wanted to go in 2024. And so now here they are in 2025 with a opportunity to get a new offensive mind. And with that, I'm assuming quite a bit of new offensive staffers as well. We know that the offensive line coaches, one has been fired, the other one's contract has expired. So the new head coach, the new offensive coordinator is going to have to hire some new O-line coaches, but I have to imagine maybe quarterback coach, wide receiver coach, tight end coach, offensive analyst, assistant, whatever the name of those various titles are, they're going to have to go through and get some of those. And some of those guys will be able to keep their jobs as well. For instance, Ben McDaniels, the wide receiver coach. He's been here for a few years now. He's survived a couple of different coaches. He's been given a lot of credit for the development of Nico Collins. So maybe Ben McDaniels is able to keep his job whenever the new offensive coordinator gets in. Or maybe they want to see something else from the wide receiver coach and get a little bit more out of him. Maybe they want a different running backs coach. Maybe they want a different tight ends coach. Certainly they're going to have a new offensive line coach. And then the quarterback coach is fascinating. Jerrod Johnson is a candidate, and we'll talk about him, to be the offensive coordinator. Promoting from within doesn't feel like that's something that would be the right move for the Houston Texans or be an exciting move, although there is potential to Jerrod Johnson. He interviewed for a couple of different offensive coordinator jobs in last year's offseason before he stuck as the quarterback's coach for the Houston Texans. And the succession plan was clear. You have Bobby Slowick be successful in 2024. He moves on to be a head coach. Jerrod Johnson moves up from QB coach to offensive coordinator. That obviously didn't happen. And part of the evaluation of Jerrod Johnson is how did he do as a quarterback's coach this year? Some of the fundamentals from CJ Stroud got a little loose, got a little messy. The footwork conversation that we had over the course of the season here on SNL, that was something that we talked about with CJ Stroud as well. And there were areas of the game where CJ Stroud regressed, and that should be on Jerrod Johnson's plate as well. So he's a candidate. We'll talk about him. We'll go through some of these other candidates on the candidate list as well when Landry Locker joins us and jumps in here on SNL. Until then, of course, the Super Chats go to the front of the line. We'd love to hear from you in the chat as well. There's plenty to get to as we get talking about the offensive coordinator search for the Houston Texans here on Championship Sunday with the NFL. Nick Jones says, it almost seems like we need a whole new offensive coaching staff. Stoots at no offensive position excelled. Yeah, look, if the new offensive coordinator wants to bring in a whole new offensive staff, certainly his prerogative. I mean, you want to change out the QB coach and the tight ends coach and the running backs coach and all this other stuff, yeah, go for it. I mean, that's up to the offensive coordinator to decide and to do when he brings in or when he gets the job, if he wants to bring in a bunch of his guys. And that's where you get a really interesting comment or conversation to be had about how much experience does the guy have. If they're super experienced, they got a large pool that they could pull from. If they're not as experienced, they may need to use DeMeco Ryans as a little bit of a resource. They may need to use Nick Caserio as a little bit of resource to help round out that coaching staff if they're a guy that doesn't have as much experience. Landry Locker, SNL here with you on Championship Sunday. Ready to talk about some of these candidates?
I'm ready, man. I'm very ready to talk about these candidates. I think there's one that is perfect. And I think I think organizationally it's perfect. I think structurally it's perfect. And I think that it just makes too much damn sense. There's way too many elements with this guy. I think if you laid out the perfect candidate, I think he's there. I'm kind of leaning there. I'll tell you who in a sec. First, let's go through the candidates. As soon as you hit the guy, I'll let you know.
Ohio State offensive coordinator Chip Kelly, first on the list. CBS Sports reporting that the Jaguars and Texans already have Kelly on their short list. The Jaguars offensive coordinator spot, of course, is not a play calling offensive coordinator spot. Liam Cohen, their new head coach, is going to call plays. The Texans offensive coordinator spot is a play calling position, and it's the top offensive mind in the building. Of course, Chip Kelly coming off his run with Ohio State. They were a juggernaut on offense throughout the playoff. Little hiccup there against Michigan. We're all wondering, like, hey, did Chip Kelly forget that Jeremiah Smith's on the team? And obviously the tremendous amount of experience he has prior to Ohio State. Head coach at UCLA, head coach in the NFL for 4 years, 3 with the Eagles, 1 for the 49ers. The 49ers year, we don't really want to talk about that one. But what do you make of Chip Kelly as a candidate?
Although the advanced stats with that 49ers year were actually pretty good. They were actually pretty good. Like if you look at like the DVOA and based on like it was top half, which is better than the Texans were this year with Slowick. So if you look deeper into the 49ers, it wasn't that bad. I don't believe Jonathan Jones' report that the Jags are trying to bring in Chip Kelly. That makes no sense. I think I don't want to say that he just threw that out there, but it would make no sense for Chip Kelly to go to a place as a respected play caller, a past history of innovation, and go there and just be underneath the boy wonder who he doesn't really have a lot of ties to and be in Jacksonville and working with Trevor Lawrence. So I get that Jonathan Jones is trying to put that out there. I don't even think that's possible. That makes zero sense. So I don't even think that's a thing. I think that's crazy. We know the ties to DeMeco Ryans. I think Chip Kelly would be a good candidate. I think he has the personality and the ability to handle that side of the rock, but I do not, he is not my number one guy right now. Okay. He has been pushed down the list.
I think your big positive for Chip Kelly is tremendous amount of experience and relevant success in the NFL. Like, I mean, he's coached. I said this last night. Chip Kelly's probably called more offensive plays than some of these candidates have been in the NFL for plays coached. Like, he's probably called more offensive plays than those guys have been coaches for total snaps.
The good thing about him is it's not just experience, it's innovation. Like all the up tempo that we see in college football right now, you can almost credit Chip Kelly. Like they changed rules because of what Oregon was doing, and it was kind of handed down from him. But remember when the defense couldn't even substitute? It was borderline cheating with Chip Kelly. I know the Philadelphia, like the recency bias of what happened in Philadelphia is bad. He revolutionized the NFL for a year. There was a lot going on. There was a lot of innovation there. And that's what DeMeco talks about. So he's not just some old fossil who's kind of stuck in his ways. I've heard about some of the other former head coaches that are being thrown out there, the names like the Pedersons, the McCarthys, which I think are absolute pipe dreams. I think those guys would probably want to sit out for a year at the very least. But he's a lot more innovative than someone who's been calling plays as long as he's been. So I think Chip Kelly is solid, just not my number one guy.
I really like the candidacy. I just feel like you're going to have a hard time getting him. I mean, sure, if the allure of the NFL is there, then it makes it easier. It's going to be expensive. I mean, Chip Kelly makes $2 million at Ohio State already. Front Office Sports reports that the top offensive coordinator pay in the NFL is $3 million. That's Todd Monken over there in Baltimore. So you're talking about at least $3 million, maybe more. And look, the Texans got the money. They've never been afraid to write the check.
They're not cheap. They're not cheap.
They're not cheap. So, but it's going to be expensive to get Chip Kelly. And if that's a hurdle, it's not really that big of a hurdle. The Texans have the money that can write the check. I just don't know if the opportunity, the job is exactly what Chip Kelly wants, because it's pretty comfortable being the Ohio State offensive coordinator. He starts with a deck stacked against almost the rest of his opponents, and it's a fun job. He could go back-to-back pretty easy. Gets to swap out and handpick his quarterback basically every year if he wants to, or you get the top guy in there and you have him for a few seasons. It's a pretty good spot. You'd have to do some convincing, but if he wants it, it's certainly a good job. A lot of experience with Chip Kelly. Let's throw another name here on the pile. Former Saints and Vikings offensive coordinator. The last name will be familiar to you. Clint Kubiak. Clint Kubiak. Landry, what do you think about Clint Kubiak?
Another guy where the advanced stats were actually not as bad. And I mean, before Derek Carr got hurt, they were actually all right. Here's my problem with Kubiak. And we're talking about the right Kubiak, right? Yeah, I lose track of the Saints OC, right?
Correct. Yeah, Clay Kubiak. Yeah, okay. Clay Kubiak is probably going to end up as the offensive coordinator for the 49ers.
Correct.
That's Gary's other son who's a coach. Gary has a third son who's a scout for the Cowboys.
Correct. Yes. So here's my problem with him. First of all, I think there's a tendency to over romanticize the Kubiak thing, and rightfully so. My problem with Clint Kubiak is he's basically Bobby Slowick. Like we used to criticize the Texans when they would keep trying to copy the Patriot way. I know he's got more of a pipeline. I know he does have the 1 year as offensive coordinator with the Saints, but I mean the recent pathway, 2022 passing game coordinator and QB coach for the Niners, and passing game coordinator in 2023. It's basically Slowick-like. So I don't know how much of a change that is. And I don't know if they need like an extreme change, but it just seems very Slowick-like. It's weird. Like, I feel like John McClain has gone from everything's love you blue to now everything's Gary Kubiak. And I love Gary Kubiak more than anything. Like, I think he's the class.
He's been on your show
twice. Yeah, I love Gary. But I just don't know about the Kubiak thing. I think there's a sense of romanticism, and I don't feel like when there was romanticism with D'Amico, he was also like the top best potential candidate. So it was kind of a bonus. You could do worse than Clint Kubiak. I think it's a little better than Slowick, but there's a lot of similarities.
I like it a lot more than Bobby Slowick just because he has called plays for an NFL team twice in his career. He did it for New Orleans last year, and he did it for 1 year in Minnesota before they blew out the staff and changed a bunch of stuff. And, they hired Kevin O'Connell, and obviously, Kevin O'Connell calling plays or Clint Kubiak, you're going with Kevin O'Connell, the new guy in there. But it is younger guy, lighter experience than some, and certainly I think when you've talked about this from a presence standpoint, I don't know if Clint Kubiak's got a presence that some of these other guys may have or would have in the conversation. So we were here at the end of Bobby Slowick's tenure wondering, like, does he just do whatever, or does he like stand up for himself? Does he get what he wants? Like, okay,
I heard he kind of made a fool of himself in front of the team.
That's not good.
I heard Bobby kind of lost it a little bit.
Like lost it, like got mad, or lost it like people couldn't buy into what he was saying.
Opposite of mad.
He got sad. I don't know what he was not mad enough.
No, opposite of mad. You had it. Yeah.
Sad. He was sad in front of the team.
Next topic.
Okay, you want the next guy.
But that's what I heard.
Wow. That's not good.
Yep.
It's hard to kill. You gotta keep the locker room on your side.
Heard that, sir.
Got to keep the locker room. Next candidate. This is my top candidate. It's Rams tight ends coach, pass game coordinator Nick Caley. Nick Caley previously interviewed for the Texans offensive coordinator job when D'Amico Ryans was first hired, and then ultimately that went to Bobby Slowick after an interview to Cliff Kingsbury as well. Caley's been in LA for the past 2 seasons with Sean McVay. He's been sitting under the McVay learning tree. Prior to that, he coached in New England, so Nick Caserio is familiar with him. He was the tight ends coach in New England before he ended up in LA. And pass game coordinator for Sean McVay. It's a nice title to have. McVay obviously does a lot there on the offensive staff, but the McVay tree, when you think about LaFleur in Green Bay, O'Connell in Minnesota, Taylor in Cincinnati, now Cohen in Jacksonville. It's a pretty good tree to be picking off of.
Yep. And I think you missed something really bad. I think you do. I'm not questioning your list at all. I'm not questioning what you're saying, but I think you're missing something very, very important here when it comes to Nick Caley. Like very, very important here.
Is it that Nick Caley went to John Carroll University?
Yes, it is. And it is. That is Nick Caserio's college. That is the pipeline. That is Nick Caserio's background on top of the Patriots, on top of the McVay tree, which is kind of an extension. I think Nick Caserio has taken a step back offensively the last couple of years, and they've gotten to this point where a change was needed. I think this is the ultimate compromise organizationally, where you take a guy who has the Caserio background and he has kind of the D'Amico background and what D'Amico values. Like if you listen to D'Amico Ryan's opening press conference, and when he's talking about offense and he's talking about what he values and he's saying motion and getting the ball to guys quick, that's the Rams. Like what he described was the Rams. Like you go back and listen to D'Amico's first press conference. Everything he's describing is the Rams. And this guy is off that pipeline that you love. He went to the college that Nick Caserio went to. He worked in New England when Caserio was there. This is, to me, you can make the strong case football-wise, but you can also make the strong case organizationally, because I think to Nick Caserio's credit, he did kind of step back from the offense. He did let D'Amico do his thing. It didn't work out. It's not the end all be all, because you got at least a snippet of what CJ can look like in this system or a similar one. But I think it's the ultimate compromise. Absolutely. I think it's the ultimate compromise. So now, I would go with that.
Now, the ultimate compromise is not the perfect candidate. This is not who you're talking about for the perfect candidate, is it? We haven't got to that person yet.
Correct? Oh, this is him.
This is him. This is the perfect candidate that you teased at the beginning.
Yeah, that he's the perfect candidate.
So I have drawn you over to the Nick Caley conversation.
Yep.
Interesting. Yeah, started out as a student assistant at John Carroll back in 2005.
Yep.
Now finds himself with the LA Rams here. There's some more football nerdy people than Landry and myself that call him the next Ben Johnson. That's lofty praise to put on to a guy. Don't know about all of that. And certainly that John Carroll alumni group has some pretty impressive guys in there. Don Shula, Tom Telesco, former Raiders general manager, Frank Ross, Dave Ziegler, former Raiders general manager, the Polian kids,
Josh McDaniels, London Fletcher, Dave Caldwell is a former Jaguars general manager, Tom Arth, who is a quarterbacks coach for the Steelers right now, and then, of course, Nick Caserio as well. Yep.
Okay, the next candidate, sticking with the Rams quarterback coach Dave Ragone. Texans fans remember this name from back in the day. He's a draft pick by the Texans and a quarterback for the Texans for a few years. And then Ragone has been bouncing around. He's coached under Matt Nagy in Chicago. He's coached under Arthur Smith in Atlanta and now coached under Sean McVay for a second time, as he was previously with McVay in Washington. He's the QB coach for Matt Stafford and the LA Rams. Ragone, I like that he's coached at a bunch of different places and had some experience at a lot of those places. And he's very good friends with Sean McVay. I know it was a joke a few years ago. If you were friendly with McVay, you got a job.
Sean McVay's hand, you got a job.
Yeah, he's very good friends with McVay. McVay has talked at length about how impressive Ragone is as an offensive mind. Not my favorite candidate, but certainly on my short list amongst the candidates. What do you think about the former NFL QB and current QB coach for the Rams, Dave Ragone?
It doesn't make me too excited, but I could be sold on it. I don't know that he's someone that they would be looking at. I think we've kind of passed the I think we've gotten through like the elite of the elite list that I think we should be looking at. But yeah, I'm not overly excited about Dave Ragone, although he is with the Rams, so I kind of trust everything they do.
Yeah, I mean, look, if you lost out on Nick Caley and still wanted Rams, this would be the way you could go about that.
Which is you. You want Rams.
I want Rams, certainly. Yeah, I want Rams. It's a good tree to pick off of. And I like that. And look, I think Ragone's experience with Arthur Smith, who DeMeco Ryans has a tremendous amount of respect for.
Loves him.
Tremendous amount of respect for Arthur Smith when ahead of that Falcons game in 2023, just the way he's talked about him. So I think that's a positive for Ragone. One of your guys, you talked about him for a long time, Minnesota quarterback coach Josh McCown. Landry.
Big fan. I'm a fan of Josh McCown. I think Josh McCown is destined to be an NFL head coach. I think he's a leader. I think he possesses an experience that you can't duplicate. I think you can simplify it to coaching experience if you so desire, which is not something, I don't care how long you've been calling plays or anything like that. But I don't think anyone can duplicate his experience, his resume, and the unique responsibility of while he's playing, for the majority, he was essentially an extra coach. That's how he was looked at. That's how he was treated. That's how he functioned. Much like how we saw Case McCoy this year, like when he wasn't practicing, he had the headset on and he was following around Bobby Slowick. And we thought that was a interesting observation. Yeah. Like if they told me Case Keenum was going to be the quarterback coach right now, I would have no issue with it. I think he's been kind of a coach. So I'm a McCown fan. It's inevitable that he's eventually going to be a head coach. I think you know it. I know it. Everyone knows it. And I think it's inevitable that in the next couple of years, he's an offensive coordinator and takes that next step. So I'm a big Josh McCown guy. I know him and CJ like each other. There's the video of, hey, we need to find a court and hoop in Carolina. I think it was no secret that McCown wanted CJ Stroud in Carolina. I don't know that he would come to the Texans, though. I mean, they kind of did him dirty and they kind of put him in a weird spot where he was kind of in the middle of all that Eric Bieniemy backlash type of crap. I thought it was kind of unfair, to be honest with you, the manner in which he was treated. But I think they were basically going to hire him, and then they decided not to at the last second. I don't know if he really and Cal McNair was here, so I don't know if I want to come back to a place where they made me look like an idiot. They could have just said, no, I'm not hiring you, but they wanted to hire you, and then overnight they decided it was Lovie Smith, and all of a sudden you're looked at as some slime ball, despite the fact I've never heard anyone say anything bad about you.
Yeah, McCown is probably where my everything past McCown on the list is either far-fetched or not as impressive. He's sort of the last guy in my list. And I just don't look, I know he's only been an NFL coach for a couple of seasons, but you saw the results in Minnesota as he was a part of the staff that was either going to coach JJ McCarthy up or was going to, rebuild Sam Darnold. And they did the latter. They didn't have the opportunity to do the former, but he was probably in the building in large part to do the former, which is get J.J. McCarthy ready, create a nice base. Multiple franchises have trusted him with that caretaker role in the quarterback room. So I think that's a big positive for him. I mean,
he's a leader, man. He's an effing leader. He's an effing leader. He's been in half the NFL buildings. His Rolodex, I can't imagine what his Rolodex is because I've never heard anyone say anything bad about him. The first time that this even came up was I was in Cleveland and I was at training camp and I asked Hugh Jackson because I heard McCown talk and I was like, hey, do you think this guy could be a head coach one day? He's like, oh, absolutely. No doubt. He would have a job on and I know Hugh Jackson's kind of a goofball, but he's like, he could have a job in my staff tomorrout. And I was like, okay.
He might have been a better head coach at that moment than Hugh Jackson.
Well, he probably could have gone 0-16. And he went to Philadelphia and remember when he tore his knee and he played the final game of the season and threw for 400 yards or something like that. It was like a real heroic effort, but Doug Pederson in the preseason let him call plays. He gave him the headset and he called plays for a half. And part of the reason why he kind of stepped away from trying to coach was, number one, he was getting treated so unfairly for whatever reason. I think it was like some sort of like just unfair crap that he was getting that he didn't ask for. Number two, people were ignoring what had been said about him for damn near 10 years about him potentially being on the fast track to be a head coach by people, including Hugh Jackson, including Doug Pederson. And number three, his son was still in. His son, who's the quarterback at UTSA now, was in his junior or senior year of high school. So he kind of helped his son, Owen, finish out high school and kind of did his thing a little bit. And then went to Carolina. The Frank Reich thing fell apart. And then he went to Minnesota and with Darnold. So, yeah. You know, I like Josh McCown. You know how I feel about him.
Certainly. And that's kind of where my, I think Chip Kelly, Clint Kubiak, Nick Caley, for me, Dave Ragone, probably not everybody Dave Ragone, but McCown. I think those are, McCown, Caley, Kubiak, and Kelly are probably the top four. And then it kind of is everybody else. We'll talk about some other candidates in a second, Landry. Uriel Garza has a super chat. How would you guys feel about a college coordinator that isn't Chip Kelly?
I'd be fine.
There's a couple of names that I put together on the list that are college guys. I think some of them are probably like a little far-fetched out there, and then some of them are kind of, pretty intriguing. I threw Joe Sloan on the list, who's the LSU offensive coordinator. They were awesome last year. This year, not great on offense, not as good. Obviously didn't have
there was weird. Their whole organization was weird because sometimes they look like the best offense in the country, and then other times the thing about college is that you don't know as much about college as the NFL. And like just a left tackle or right tackle out in college is like you don't even recognize the offense.
Yeah.
Like in that one instance. So they had their left tackle the whole time. I don't know what the hell was going on with them. The other thing on McCown real quick.
Okay.
Is I think like, I don't want to say he's like topped out what he can do in Minnesota, but I don't think Sam Darnold's going to have another year like he did. And I don't think JJ McCarthy is going to be like some sort of badass. So if you do want to like put yourself in position to where you can find another spot, like if a team offers him the OC gig, it might be time to bail. Because I don't know that Minnesota is going to duplicate what they did last year. I think he did about as good with Sam Darnold as we could expect. Let's be honest. If they pay Sam Darnold 35, 40 million, we're going to start looking at it completely different. And he's not going to have, I would be willing to bet. And I like Sam Darnold. He's actually younger than Joe Burrow, by the way. Yeah. I would bet that Sam Darnold doesn't have a year next year like he did this year. I would just kind of bet that.
Yeah. That's a great point from a timing perspective. It would, honestly, if I was McCown, you know what I would do? As much as it's the Texans, I'd go to Tampa. I'd go to Tampa. I'd take the 1 year. I'd take the 1 year in Tampa.
Coaches. Baker's like the head coach. Baker is the quarterback version of Sean McVay.
He's the kingmaker. Dave Canales, head coach. Liam Cohen, head coach. Former Tampa Bay Buccaneer Josh McCown comes to Tampa, runs the offense, head coach.
You're missing the most impressive one. He got Freddie Kitchens a full-time head coaching job.
That's true. Yes, that's a good point. That's a good point. He was able to keep Freddie employed.
He can do anything.
That's true. Okay, I got a quick Joe Sloan story for you. So Sloan, offense coordinator for LSU, really low on my list. Probably not an option. He's only been an OC calling plays for 2 years in college. He's really good in 2023. 2024, they're in the Texas Bowl, obviously. Now they're kicking Baylor's ass. They're putting it to the Bears. And LSU ran like a run play on like third and medium. And I guess it didn't satisfy Joe Sloan. I'm in the restroom. The coach's box is next to the restroom.
Oh, God. Oh, right there. Yeah, sometimes I see Caserio peeing when I'm in there.
I can hear Joe Sloan furious at what occurred on a bowl game where they're up like 20 points on a third and long rushing play. I was just like, all right, he's dialed in. He's excited.
What was he doing? Just like cussing and yelling?
Oh, he was saying things you wouldn't say in front of your mother. He was not happy.
You know what? He just went up my list slightly.
A couple of more names. Uriel asked about college guys. I put Pat Shurmur on the list just because he has a ton of experience. He's never been good in the NFL. He was Colorado's offensive coordinator this past year. They had the 6th passing offense in college. but they never ran the football. So
I can't do Pat Shurmur.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. And then the other one, the actual one that I think is actually pretty intriguing, and this is, you thought Bobby was young and inexperienced. Will Stein. He's Oregon's offensive coordinator.
God.
Will Stein was a high school football coach 4 years ago. Then he went to UTSA. Awesome at UTSA. Dan Lanning rips him out of UTSA, puts him at Oregon. They're the second best and 13th best.
So he's a Jeff Traylor guy?
Yeah. Traylor picked him up out of high school, plopped him into UTSA, and they were awesome.
You know how I feel about Jeff Traylor.
Yeah.
Big Jeff Traylor guy.
Stein, of course, coached Bo Nix at Oregon, and Bo Nix had a really nice rookie season. Obviously, he had Sean Payton as his head coach in the NFL, so that helps too.
No, he did an excellent job. He made me look really bad. Bo Nix, quarterbacks make fools of us all. He's just the latest one to make me look like a dumbass. But I don't care about like the type of experience. I'm just not as familiar with his game.
Yeah.
As anything.
Nerds love him because he had a big like dissertation one time about how his style of offense is not college, it's not pro, it's translatable. You can do this, you can do that, you can run it in college and then go run it on Sundays. So it's a I thought it was pretty impressive. I didn't totally understand everything he was talking about, but that'd be Will Stein be the college guy for me, outside of Chip Kelly. I have a Chip Kelly-ish update question conversation for you here, though.
Okay.
Something massive just happened at Ohio State.
Okay.
Ohio State's defensive coordinator, Jim Knowles, was just hired away by Penn State to be the Penn State defensive coordinator. He'll make $3.1 million per year, or excuse me, $3.1 million over 3 years. So as an average, so he's getting a huge raise. He's going to go coach Penn State's defense. Would this get Ohio State to the table ahead of time to try to keep Chip in college so they don't lose both coordinators off a national championship team?
See, I don't know the background on it. I don't know if it was a money thing. I don't know if like he has some sort of ties to James Franklin. I don't know what to really make of that. Like in the moment, to be honest with you,
I'm just wondering if some big money at Ohio State would say, we're not losing both our coordinators in the same offseason, one to the pros and one to a rival. Like that's just not going to happen for us.
I think Ohio State people are mind-effed right now because they don't know what to do with themselves. They had a meltdown over losing to Michigan, and then they won the national title, and they probably said so many bad things about Ryan Day. I don't know if they know what to do with themselves up there in Columbus right now.
Well, it's the first time Penn State's beat Ohio State in a long time. Couple of more names. Let's fire through some of these quickly. You nor I believe Texans quarterback coach Jerrod Johnson should be the next offensive coordinator.
No, that would be, it just doesn't, I would like people saying it. My question would just be why. Like that's, and I'm not saying that in a bad way. I like Jerrod a lot as a guy. His future might be really, really bright.
Exactly. The potential might be there.
But I just don't like, what would it be based on would be my question. Like it's not as simple as, he hasn't called plays or anything like that. It's more so, did CJ Stroud get better this year with Jerrod Johnson? Like for all the talk about like Bobby Slowick got worse this year, I think we can all agree. And it's tangible. Like I saw some people like we watch every snap of the Texans and we know every situation like the back of like we know everything that goes on. There's like the gray area and stuff. It's there. Every position coach has been criticized, and I just don't know a guy in the same system who I think should probably be questioned as much as the offensive line coach and the offensive coordinator. Why make him the offensive coordinator? That doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Right, certainly. I mean, he is a accessory to the offensive failure from 2024. Like he had a hand in it. It's not.
That would be really confusing to me.
Yeah.
For that to happen.
Again, I think if he interviews for the job, it's partly him interviewing to let them know that he could stay as the QB coach if the next guy wants to keep him.
See, I would take Case. Someone just said it in the chat. I would be more excited about Case Keenum being the QB coach.
You want to make a change? Be my guest.
Well, I just think he knows as much as anyone about this system, and I think it's just kind of his future. But as far as Jerrod being the offensive coordinator, my question would just be why. Here's the other thing.
Okay.
Someone brought this up to me yesterday. I was talking about all this stuff. Why does Jake Moreland get a free pass?
Jake Moreland?
The tight end coach.
Yeah.
And you're going to make fun of me because I'm bringing up the tight end coach when I make fun of you for bringing up the offensive line coach. So that's fair.
No, I'm not going to make fun of you because
what does he do?
The tight end position has not been good.
Yeah, what does he do?
No, I think that he's certainly on the chopping block.
Yeah, what is he doing? By the way, I heard that Popovich didn't get fired either.
His contract expired.
February. No, it's not expired yet. I heard it expires in like two or 3 weeks.
So I just saw Aaron Wilson say his contract expired.
Yes. And Aaron was the one. Aaron was the one who was talking about it. But I guess like
expiring, whatever you want to say.
I don't think he's too thrilled that it's being thrown out there that he was fired.
I'd be pissed too if I wasn't fired and people said
he's a pretty crazy dude too. He stands on business.
Yeah.
Google Popovich. He stand on that business. Any
relation to the Spurs coach, you think?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Maybe like a second uncle removed or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Aaron said it, but I think it was reported that he was fired, but his contract's out. So he's not fired.
And he could be retained. He could go somewhere else. I saw that from Aaron as well.
I heard they like him. Aaron said they like him.
Well, you know what? He's an accessory to the issues as well. So, everybody's an accessory on that offensive staff. Ben McDaniel's the wide receiver coach, accessory. Danny McBride, running back coach, accessory. Jake Moreland, tight ends coach, accessory. Who am I missing? They already fired 2 offensive assistants.
Yeah.
I called him vest guy. He always wore a vest. It didn't matter what the temperature was. He always said they fired vest guy. That was fired, not contract, not renewed stuff. Couple more names here, Landry. Former Jaguars head coach Doug Pederson. I don't think Doug's taking an offensive coordinator job. I also don't think Doug was impressive in Jacksonville. And Doug handed over play calling duties in Jacksonville.
Yeah, I don't know about this. It's cool to have. I mean, I guess if you want a Super Bowl winning coach to be in your building and all that, that's fine. This is probably, of all these names you've thrown at me, this is probably, outside of Jerrod Johnson, this is the least excited that I've been with any of these names. And I love this effing list, man. This is awesome.
He could put together, he could get sort of the Philly band back together. Frank Reich ain't doing nothing these days. Get Frank Reich and Doug Pederson, and
okay,
they could serve Jell-O in the cafeteria at 5.
Poor Frank, man. Poor Frank. He just sets himself up for failure. He goes to Dave Tepper, and you have Bryce Young with no assets around him. You've traded all your assets. You've gotten rid of everything, and then you're just expected to, do something. And now all of a sudden, Canales goes there, and he's making progress. And who would have thunk it? You get rid of Deontay Johnson, and Bryce Young all of a sudden doing his thing, and you're improving the assets around him. Who would have thunk it?
Another former head coach fired, let go, contract expired, whatever the hell the term you want to use is. Former Cowboys head coach Mike McCarthy. I don't think there's any chance.
He would not do that.
I don't think there's any chance Mike McCarthy, who hasn't been a coordinator in 20 years,
he would not do that.
Is taking a coordinator job. Intriguing name if he'd do it, but he wouldn't do it.
He would not do that. I saw, I think Cecil Shorts put it on Instagram, and I was like, dude, come on. The guy just worked in Dallas as a head coach. He actually, if he lays out, Mike McCarthy can lay out his win-loss record in Dallas and actually hang his hat on it somewhat nicely. The 1 year he had bad, the quarterback got her. You can actually you can convince people if we already function under the premise that Jerry Jones is hard to work for. If you look at his win-loss record and what he actually did, Dak Prescott was a top 5 MVP candidate. I mean, he can lay out his resume. I don't see why Mike McCarthy wants to come call plays. That doesn't make any sense to me.
This is a mean comment. Mike McCarthy is a large individual.
Better than Shaq Mason. Might be in better shape.
You're probably not wrong about that. But also, Mike McCarthy might be the Saints head coach. They don't have any other options. People are turning down the Saints left and right. So Mike McCarthy might be the Saints head coach. He might get a head coach job right away. Or, he could sit out a year like he did last time and fool some other billionaire into giving him the job. Turns out he was much better than the jokes that were flying.
No, Glazer got him that job.
Yeah.
Jay Glazer got Mike McCarthy that job in Dallas. Like, he was basically his PR firm. He did that whole story about him, like, basically living in a basement doing PFF. Like,
yeah, creating a coaching staff that coached every week.
Jay Glazer, dude, you got him that job, man. And he got Aldon Smith with the Cowboys too. Hell, Jay Glazer might be the guy to take care of the Cowboys. He might be the dude.
Yeah. That I would say does it, unless that would say does it from like your notable, you understand them, you know who they are type candidates. The rest of them would just be kind of dart throws.
The next one would be and I'll just be honest with you, they would be a Wikipedia / wherever the hell that takes me type of rabbit hole where I'd probably be on YouTube and looking at everything else.
Yeah. And you go to Houston football, find out about them.
You better go to Houston football. Where the hell else are you going to find out about them?
So like Brian Johnson,
I like him.
Former Eagles offensive coordinator, current Commanders offensive pass game coordinator.
I like him better than Jerrod.
Former NCAA football cover athlete, Brian Johnson.
At Utah?
Yeah.
That was a good one. That was one of the last ones.
Here's my one thing I found in the Brian Johnson research that I was like, oh, Jesus. In Philadelphia, when he took over calling plays and was the offensive coordinator in 2023, he was criticized for having a simplistic approach and relying on screen passes too heavily.
At where?
In Philadelphia. I'm out. Simplistic offense relied on screen passes.
Here's my problem with Philadelphia. And this is just based on like recent. They hated Jonathan Gannon. I think Jonathan Gannon's actually doing a decent job, like with where Arizona was. I think they'll be good eventually.
True.
And they hated Steichen, like they hated everybody. They ran Pederson off, like they hate Sirianni, like they hate coaches in Philadelphia. They hate everybody. They've never liked a coach in Philadelphia. They hated Andy Reid. He was a fat idiot, and they got rid of Andy Reid. Remember that?
Yep.
I'm old enough to remember when Andy Reid was an idiot in Philadelphia. They hate everybody.
Yep. That's true. A couple of other names. Marcus Brady, former Colts offensive coordinator, Los Angeles Chargers passing game coordinator. He's gotten a couple OC interviews.
No thanks.
Mark Brunell, Detroit Lions quarterbacks coach.
Are they not going to make him their OC?
So they're doing some weird stuff there in Detroit, and they shelled out a bunch of money. So the name Hank Fraley, if you've been watching the show from a couple of days ago, I mentioned him. He was the offensive line coach in Detroit. He interviewed for an OC job with the Seahawks, and Hank Fraley got a title promotion and a new contract, but he's still the O-line coach, and he's officially the run game coordinator now. So he's sticking around in Detroit. It feels like Dan Campbell's trying to circle the wagons and keep as many guys in the building as he can, because I got to imagine some of these guys could go to Brian Johnson's staff in Chicago. So
Dan Campbell's in the
Ben Johnson's staff in Chicago.
Dan Campbell's in the Sirianni situation where you lose both of your coordinators and you got to figure something out. And Sirianni, I know he's an easy target. I know he's got like a turdish vibe, but he's done a decent job of maintaining that. I don't know if it hits a wall with the way that Jalen is moving around right now, but he's set the bar pretty decently. He's done a pretty good job making do without those guys, finding ways to win.
And then I have just I think we would all hate this just from who he is and experience standpoint, but this guy named Josh Grizzard, he is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass game coordinator. Went to Yale, was a coach at Yale, was a coach at Duke. He's been in Miami.
I'm over Ivy League
for a few years.
But Bill O'Brien was Ivy League. I'm over that.
He coached under Mike McDaniel in Miami. Jalen Waddle specifically mentioned that Grizzard was one of the reasons he was so good as a rookie. Okay. And then he was on the Buccaneers staff this past year.
I would say that Jalen Waddle was going to be good as a rookie no matter what, but okay, that's nice of him to say.
He's a candidate for the Buccaneers OC spot.
Good for him. AKA a head coach next year.
Damn it, Grizzard. I like his name, so I think that's probably one of the reasons he made it.
Grizzard.
I have a
Dairy Queen. If they hire Grizzard, it needs to be the Grizzard Blizzard.
The
Grizzard Blizzard.
That's great. I love that. I think you're the king of this. The nobody's talking about. I have a nobody's talking about Chip Kelly.
Okay.
And I think this applies a little bit to Clint Kubiak as well.
Okay.
All right. The coach's name was Bobby. The offensive coordinator's coach's name was Bobby. And then you're going to go to a Chip. I just don't. I feel like maybe
what?
I feel like you need to go away from like the 80s villain names, you know?
What?
Like you need to go with just
somebody's talking about of all time.
Like a more normal name. Nick.
Is
Dave.
Chip, is Chip
Josh.
his real name or is Chip his nickname?
Charles is his real name.
Charles Kelly?
Charles Edward Kelly. And
what do you think the press conferences would be like with Chip Kelly? Do you think there's a possibility he gets pissed at me ever?
Absolutely. I think I do. I am intrigued, and this is selfish, but it's also important for the fans too. Like I have thought about how the press conferences would be with these guys. I think
McCown would be number one by far.
I do believe McCown would be one of the most open's not the right word, but like I do think he would give a lot of explanation on things.
This is a good question. Yeah, he would go in depth. He's the man.
I think McCown would be the best explanation guy. I think Chip. I don't think Chip would like the second guessing, but I also think he would have a good explanation for why.
Yeah, he'd make you feel like a dumbass for questioning, but I think he would explain it. It wouldn't be like a pissy Bill O'Brien vibe. Amos Paneline asks who hadn't gotten pissed at me. Matt Burke hadn't gotten pissed at me. Frank Ross hadn't gotten pissed at me.
Yeah.
David Coley never got pissed at me.
Has Caserio ever gotten mad at you?
Yeah, but like in a
Caserio way.
Yeah, and like, I heard you said that, like that type of thing, but nothing like serious. And then like he'll be like, I heard you gave me some flowers the other day because I said it. I was like, yeah, I did.
Yeah,
but no.
Yeah, so I do think Chip would be.
Did Easterby ever get mad? Easterby stayed away from me because I basically exposed his ass when he tried to have that dinner. That everybody was. I'm a folk hero at NRG from like the employees there because of Easterby. Like that's why I can really do no wrong. Ran his ass out.
I think Caley would be nerdy at the podium. So
really, like Frank Ross nerdy or like Cody Stoots? Oh God, you would love that.
I think he would be. Well, I'm sorry, I'm interested in things.
No, I know. I'm just saying you would love it. I'm not. You don't have to take it personal. Just embrace it.
I think it'd be somewhere between like
Doug Pederson would be the worst.
Doug Pederson would be awful. Frank Reich would be kind of boring, I think.
Yeah.
Frank Reich would be kind of boring. Derek asks about fulfilling the Rooney Rule for offensive coordinator. We talked about Jerrod Johnson, if he interviews for the job. Brian Johnson is African-American. I've mentioned T. Martin before, Baltimore Ravens quarterbacks coach. Marcus Brady is African-American as well. So, yes, we talked about a few minority coaches.
Yeah. Thanks for keeping Stoots accountable because I really, I was really kind of wondering the same thing. I just didn't want to bring the elephant in the room.
Who was it? Somebody today interviewed one of the guys from like the very bottom of my list for their offensive coordinator job. I think it was Tampa. Tampa's expected to talk to one of the Rams guys that I had on my list, Nathan Shieldchase.
Dude, this is a hell of a question, dude. This is right up your alley, my friend. Woo! What kind of chip is Kelly?
Ooh.
I think Chip Kelly is like a he's a kettle cooked Lay's barbecue because it's kind of traditional, but it's enough on the edge to where it's not like you're getting a basic ass chip, and it's kind of like the best of both worlds, where you're not just getting like the basic ass like thin lays. You got the kettle cooked, and it's not the plain. It's a little bit of flavor. So I think he's like a barbecue or jalapeno, depending on what the game plan is. I think he's a barbecue or jalapeno kettle cooked lays.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. I was going to say that he's kind of like he's a Cool Ranch Dorito.
Ooh, damn.
He's a Cool Ranch Dorito. He's like, people know that's actually the better flavor of Dorito.
It just depends on the day. But Doritos off-brand flavors go hard though. Like they don't fail. They don't fail on that. Like not the off-brand, I should say. Like when they go like salsa verde, or they go like they go in.
Oh, I've been looking. Yeah. This should surprise you none. I've been looking for their golden sriracha flavor.
Dude, they dominate.
Their golden sriracha, I think, is going to be good.
You want some of my useless information about Doritos?
I do.
I think I've told you this 100 times, but it's one of my favorite facts. I am the possessor of useless information that you may find interesting. You know who was like a huge fan of Doritos? Huge.
Who?
Saddam Hussein.
Oh, wow.
When they captured him here and they had him like in the holding room, they had a snack machine and they had Doritos in the snack machine. And apparently he ate up all the Doritos, like the Cool Ranch and the nacho, because I guess in Saudi Arabia, they didn't have Doritos. So Saddam Hussein was like a big Dorito guy.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not know that about Saddam Hussein.
Learn something new every day, my friend. That would be crazy, though. Like if you're like however old he was when he got captured and you've never had a Dorito and you just like, what the hell is that? And you push it and you see it like drop and then you open it and just that, you're on the edge of dying, but like you get to like try that Dorito for the first time. I bet that's like a magical feeling.
Like, well, if I'm going to go out, I might as well have tried all the Dorito flavors.
What are these? Bo on the super chat says 2 main traits I want out of the new AC. 1, total command of the room. 2, to be able to adjust on the fly. I think that's someone who watched the Texans this year and realized what they lacked.
Yeah.
So I can definitely relate to that.
Oh, I have another Dorito fact that just popped into my brain.
Do you ever do you have like hell of a good?
Doritos are vegan.
Wow.
Yeah, no, that's a dip.
Hell of a good dip is the best dip ever.
That's the dip you got me onto.
If y'all want the best snack today, here's what you got to do. I'm promising you this. This is undefeated. You'll thank me. Go to HEB, get the kettle cooked jalapeno lays. Kettle cooked jalapeno lays. Go get some hell of a good dip. It's like $2. This is like a $5 snack that'll last you all the way through. Get the hell of a good dip. Get the kettle cooked lays. It's the green bag. You're welcome. Boom. And if you really want to get crazy, you can put like some paste picante in the hell of a good and like mix it. Dip that in a tortilla chip. Boom, boom, boom. Gotcha.
That does sound good.
Yeah. Best accompanied with that
high grade marijuana called Kush on the streets.
But you know.
Do you know that I've only ever had the hell of a good French onion?
Yeah, there's multiple. There's a nacho cheese. There's another one. But the French onion's the best, but they have a yellow one. They have a blue one. They have a lot.
You want to hear these? You want to hear these flavors? They have a buttermilk ranch.
I've had it.
They have a bacon horseradish dip.
Yeah, no thank you.
I'm all in on that.
Yeah, no thank you.
They have a bodacious onion.
That's a lot.
A jalapeno cheddar.
I could get down with that.
And their limited edition backyard barbecue.
H-Town 94 is tripping. He wants some Fritos bean dip.
No, thank you.
I'm good.
No, thank you. I got to try this backyard barbecue. This looks good too.
Yeah, that's going to be hard to find.
You know what? I think the locker room needs a hell of a good sponsorship. Let's chase that down.
God, I love hell of a good. It is like such a. And if you're eating healthy and you just kind of you can like dip carrots in it and everything. It's crazy.
Oh, that's a genius move.
Yeah, you dip carrots, celery, like all that. If you're trying to like go keto-ish or like not eat carbs and eat chips, just dip like anything, tomatoes, like dip whatever you want in the hella good, and you're good to go. Someone asks, are we Bills fans today? I'm very heavily invested in the Bills. I think they're going to beat the Chiefs' ass. I think they're the better team. If they don't, I'm going to be wrong. The Chiefs are going to make me look stupid again, and I'm going to lose money. But I am heavily invested in the Bills. Heavily invested. And I don't even think I've started. I might go reverse line. By the way, Hollins over receiving yards. He got a special today on CBS. Did you see it? Hollins got a CBS special. His over is like 14 yards. Every time he catches it, he goes crazy. Hollins, I combined Hollins over with Travis Kelce under. That's my parlay. He is lucky that the Texans didn't have a nickel back. I am tired of hearing that Travis Kelce is back. Under 70, over 14.
And Jerrod Johnson, the nickelback for the Bills, is very good.
He is one of the top 3 nickelbacks in the league. Doritos were invented, I'm assuming, in Disneyland. Is that true?
No. Yes, I just double checked that on Wikipedia, and it was a product made at Casa de Fritos at Disneyland in California in the early 60s.
Jacob, that's the best super chat you've ever had. I love you, man. That's the kind of information that I like to hear. That's the guy. You know where orange chicken was invented?
Ooh, tell me more.
Panda Express.
They invented orange chicken? Like it wasn't a thing before?
You want to check? Invented.
No, I believe you. Do you know General Tso is not a real general?
I did not know that.
Yeah, General Tso is a made-up thing. There was not a General Tso.
Yeah. Hollins over yards, Kelce under. Let's go.
Yep. The Landry locker prop of the day.
Oh, there you go.
All right. So we got we covered all the bases for the folks. We got offensive coordinator candidates. We've got props for you, and we've got the last second shopping list for you as you run to the grocery store and you get your dip and your chips and you get ready for the games.
Grub it out. Let's go. We got about 23 minutes till Championship Sunday. Enjoy it however you decide, whatever you want. All I care about is Mahomes is on a stretcher for once. That's a super chat. That's H-Town 94. It's very harsh, but hey, it is what it is. That's your opinion, bro.
The thoughts and opinions of H994 on a super chat do not reflect that of Landry Locker and Cody Stoots on SNL.
There you go. Appreciate y'all for coming through. Subscribe, like, right along. Always remember, whether you're in the locker room, whether you're on Cody Stoots' channel, whether you're right here on SNL, on all podcast platforms, or on Houston football, when it comes to this Texans stuff, we're all in it together. Happy Championship Sunday.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon. Thanks for watching, everybody.